Hello and welcome back to another Eureka Blu-ray update for 2025, and this is going to be a Hong Kong themed update. I have quite a lot of things to catch up on, but I have gone through all the films in these 7 releases. There's more to come. This one I haven't even got into yet. So this one came in last month, I think. Exact Revenge, The Eunuch, and Deadly Knives. So I'm looking forward to diving into these, some more Shaw Brothers stuff, The Deadly Knives, I should say. So I haven't cracked into that one yet, but I have gone through the 7 sets I'm about to show you now, and a lot of these will get their own kind of dedicated reviews. But I want to kind of just rattle through some of them and give you some of my brief thoughts on them in no particular order whatsoever. We have The Adventurers by Ringo Lam. This was the last film he made before leaving Hong Kong to go and make a film that I've forgotten that stars Jean-Claude Van Damme. But Ringo Lam was a key figure of the kind of heroic bloodshed genre, the subgenre that kind of blew up in the late 1980s in Hong Kong, and certainly knows his way around some action, as this film definitely shows. The Adventurers stars Andy Lau, and Rosamund Kwan, and Victor Wong is credited on the back here, like fairly prominently. He's in the film for about 20 seconds. It was nice to see him pop up, action, but yeah, definitely not a key figure of the film at all. And we have David Chiang. It was cool to see him because now I'm watching all these older films, which I'll be talking about in just a second. And to see an older David Chiang was like really cool to me. But Andy Lau, he plays this guy from, was it Cambodia? Yes, and his parents get brutally murdered at the beginning, this horrific sequence. And he ends up going to Thailand with his uncle, played by David Chiang, and he becomes a fighter pilot. But he ultimately is consumed with, as a lot of these stories end up being about, revenge for his family's death. And that's the villain on the front of the cover here. Who's the actor who plays him? Paul Chun. Ray Louis is the character's name. Paul Chun plays the villain, who's just a great villain. And I loved this film so much, and where the story takes Andy Lau's character. He ends up going to America, San Francisco, and he has to kind of infiltrate kind of the drug world and stuff, the crime world and everything, and he becomes a member of this gang, and then he eventually is kind of in cohorts with the guy who he wants to kill, and then he kind of falls for his daughter, and all this stuff is wrapped up in this very intense drama, and it's shot beautifully. I watched this with Connie, and she's like, this is really well made. I was like, yeah, I know. A lot of these films are. She's not quite as sold on the Hong Kong stuff as I am, but these Dutch angles and the dramatic cinematography and the dramatic moments of the film, and there's a bit of levity in there and humor in there too, but it's mainly a pretty stoic kind of revenge drama. I absolutely loved it. I love Andy Lau as well, but it was a good cast and a nice multi kind of international flavor to the story as well, set in Cambodia, Thailand, Hong Kong, America. I want to do probably a deeper dive on that one because I really love that film. Next is a 2-film set, 2 Venom Mob films, The Daredevils and Ode to Gallantry. I love this slipcover artwork by Chris Malbon. It's just great. I just think it's very dynamic, and I like how it spills over to this side of the case as well. It's very nice. So 2 films from Chang Cheh, and 1979, 1982. The Daredevils is about this man who comes to see his old friends, and they find out that his father and brother have been killed by this kind of military general who betrayed his family. And so he gets his friends, the kind of titular Daredevils, to kind of join his revenge quest in a way. And so we follow these characters as they try to infiltrate this military operation and to bring about justice for their friend. Man, I've seen the 5 Deadly Venoms, but I'm not overly familiar with the Venom Mob crew, as they were later called. It wasn't like an official term or anything. But to be my first experience of seeing some of these guys in action, like is it Sun Qian? Um, I was starting to memorize some of their names. There should be someone that Lo Mang, Wong Lik. Oh no, that was the villain in Daredevils, who plays Han Pei Chang. The Daredevils, I will just say, fucking brilliant. What a movie. From the setup of this revenge, this brotherhood, and the Venom mob kind of actors play this kind of troupe of acrobats who perform in the streets. And it was just a nice change of pace to get this really cool choreography that wasn't just fight sequences. Some really genuinely impressive stuff from all people involved. And let's see if I can get some more of the... So Chiang Sheng, Lu Feng, Sun Qian, Philip Kwok, who I am familiar with, Lo Mang. Yeah, so to see those guys, I was instantly drawn in by the Brotherhood, and you can see why they're called the Venom Mob, because, you know, they're all kind of similar but different at the same time, you know, and I liked seeing their different skills and everything as the film was progressing. But then you get these four henchmen, these four bodyguards from the main villain, and they have all their special skills, and he has his special skills. So I loved all that stuff, the kind of typical kind of martial arts stuff that you usually see with people with different abilities and styles, and you match them up against each other in dramatic fashion, and you have like a revenge story at the heart of it. But I loved the second act, where it's all about the mind games of them pretending to be kind of one of them is pretending to be the son of a higher up in the army. And so you have this kind of general villain who's kind of like, oh shit, like, oh yes, so please, you know. So it's fun. It's always fun to me to see kind of the dastardly villains who kind of, they lord over their kind of specific area of whatever it is, a military or kind of a, you know, a group. But there's always a bigger fish, right? There's always someone above them, and to see them fold like paper, like, oh god, he's the boss of that son, like, yes please, whatever you want. I love all that stuff, and you don't know their plan either, which is a brilliant device. And it ends with the Daredevils, a 20-minute fight scene in a warehouse that is absolutely fucking phenomenal. It's so good. It feels like a precursor to the Jackie Chan stuff later on in the 80s. Like, it just... awesome. I love the Daredevils so much. Ode to Gallantry is a much different one, where it follows Philip Kwok as this kind of almost hapless kind of hero who gets embroiled in this whole story, and it ends with this great kind of final fight scene with these almost like Power Ranger-esque villains who get thrown in right at the very end. I kind of feel like, man, I wish we'd built up these really cool, unique looking, like, you know, villainous kind of martial artists earlier on in the film. That last 10 minutes is really great, but I really enjoyed it. It's kind of a quirky, different kind of story, actually, and Philip Kwok is a really likable actor, I think, and so I really enjoyed Ode to Gallantry quite a bit. But the Daredevils was the one that had the secret sauce for me. I absolutely love that one. A nice shot there from the warehouse fight with I believe that's Philip Kwok. Yeah. So Chang Cheh, I'm going to be talking about a whole lot more in the future and in the future. So I'm going to be making a video where I'll be talking about the films in this set in a lot more detail. I'll be talking about the films in the Horrible History set, which just came out at the end of last year, which has 4 films from Chang Cheh set during historical time periods and focusing on historical events. And I'll also be doing a video, I'll be doing a video talking about all of them, including this set right here, which is another set of Chang Cheh films. This one is called The Magnificent Chang Cheh, which features the 2 films The Magnificent Trio from 1966 and The Magnificent Warriors from 1977. So overall, that video will be me talking about 8 films across 3 sets, and then in October, I believe, they're putting out an 8-film Chang Cheh box set, so there'll be even more to talk about when that one comes out. So I'm looking forward to making that. I have so many notes. I'm just kind of glossing through a lot of this at the moment. I probably should be glossing through it a lot quicker, actually, but The Magnificent Trio in this set, I love this artwork design too. This is by Gokaiju, Gregory Sacre. I just really like the design of it. You know, just with this strip here, it's really nice. I don't know, it's just something about it. I just think it's neat, you know. And 2 very different films. There has been some criticism that you're dealing with a film like Magnificent Trio, which for me was incredible. Felt like Kurosawa level, like great almost. Like it just had this real classical feel to it. Magnificent Trio, Jimmy Wong Yu, this kind of valiant hero, and then there's two others that kind of join his cause. He comes across randomly, really, this disputes between again, there's all these different names, like the general, the eunuch, or the, but the local kind of kingpin, basically. And he's kind of gone against the wishes of the emperor over like taxes and stuff. There's this village that they made a deal because their crop has been like a really bad yield, and they made a deal with the emperor to not be taxed because they're just not bringing in enough money. But this kind of lower level kind of guy has gotten involved, and he's going to tax them and just rinse them for all they're worth. And then it gets really nasty, and Jimmy Wong Yu kind of decides to take up the cause against this kind of villainous group of people, and it's just brilliant. And it's a lot of it is like on sets, but really beautiful. So I sometimes when I rub up against these Hong Kong films, the period ones where it's on sets and stuff, and it's like these big garish blue sky backdrops, which are very unconvincing, but it's very tastefully done in the Magnificent Trio, and I thought it was fantastic. Magnificent Wanderers, I should say. We have David Chiang as this kind of Robin Hood type, but he doesn't really rob from the rich, he's already rich. And he has this very unique weapon where he fires this kind of little bow, which is kind of like a bow catapult. And he fires these solid golden balls at his enemies, which kind of also distracts them because they're scrambling around on the floor to pick them up. And it just seems like a really weird, it's a very strange film. I enjoyed it, but it's definitely more of a comedy, kind of a wacky, zany martial arts film with some really stupid stuff in it. But I didn't think it was as bad as some people made it out to be. But definitely the pairing of the two is very interesting, to go from 66 to 77 and to see the different types of films that that Chang Cheh was making. But you also have Alexander Fusheng and Chi Quan Chun, who I really like, and this kind of group of, kind of likable heroes. I liked it. I liked Magnificent Wanderers, but Magnificent Trio was really great stuff. Next up, we have a film from 1973 by Lo Wei. This is The Tattoo Dragon. This is probably the most recent one I have in this video, and I watched this a couple of days ago. This was great. Really dark, actually. Jimmy Wong Yu again, and this is one of those kind of, trying to fill the void that Bruce Lee had left. And I'm not sure, with it being 1973, just how close that was to his death, if at all, actually. But let's see on the back here whether that was real. Yeah, it says, this was designed to bring martial arts superstar Jimmy Wong Yu to a global audience still hungry for kung fu cinema in the aftermath of Bruce Lee's death. This also has James Tien, who has an interesting kind of connection to Bruce Lee. He plays a villain in this, and he's quite a good one. Doesn't have a lot of screen time, but he's a very good villain. I just love the characters. They were also likable, and there was someone who I haven't really seen before, I don't think. He should be listed on the back here because he's kind of the main character, Sam Hui. Who's this kind of just local farmer who has this potential romance with Sylvia Chang's character, but he feels like he needs to be of a certain kind of wealth level, and for his farm to be more successful before he can consider marrying this girl who he wants to marry, and she wants him to marry her, and her father's like, hey, just marry into the family, you can come work at my shop. And he's like, no, I have to do it the right way, and I have to build up my animals and sell this and sell that. But then we have the dragon, who's this kind of, this mysterious wanderer played by Jimmy Wong Yu, who ends up coming into contact with Sam Hui's character and is injured because he got into a kind of a fight with this local gang who are tied into James Tien, and it's about this character who sets up this gambling den to just completely rinse this town and to take complete advantage of the people there who are addicted to gambling, to the point where they take all their money, and then they get the people to start gambling with the deeds to their homes, and then eventually they'll start owning the entire village, almost like a game of Monopoly, literally. And so it's about kind of Jimmy Wang Yu being this badass and kind of stopping that. And there's a great final fight sequence where James Tien is literally on fucking fire. It's mental. Like, not even like close cuts and, shaky cam. Like, you're just seeing James Tien on fucking fire. And like, one of those typical kind of very loose, full body, just kind of like not quite like a karate outfit, but like, I don't even call it really, but like the long sleeve robe and the pants, and they're on fire. Like, he's not wearing this big kind of like flame retardant suit. Like, it's sketchy shit. I was like, holy shit, James Tien's a badass. But I really, really enjoyed this a lot. Like this, and there's a really dark moment in it that I was just blown away by. Like, even still now. And there's a gorgeous German Shepherd who's kind of like his own character in the film I really enjoyed. But Tattoo Dragon is another one I want to make a video about, and I love this artwork from Sean Longmore, who is just, I love his art so much. It's cool he got to do one for this. Although you do get Jimmy Wang Yu twice there for some reason. Almost makes you feel like it's a twin dragon type situation, but it's not. Gorgeous cinematography, all shot on location as well, which I love, in Thailand, I think. Let's see if it says that on the back. I'm not sure. I think it is. But I just think, I always love it when it's just like nice, gorgeous location cinematography. The next one I've done a full video on, so you can go check out my review of that as part of my Luke versus Hong Kong cinema series. But I will mention Hong Kong 1941, which is directed by Po Chi Leung, starring Chow Yun-fat, Alex Mann, and Cecilia Yip. This is just 5-star film for me. Absolutely love it. It's set during the just before and during the Japanese occupation of Hong Kong in 1941, and we follow these three characters. And I've talked about the artist for each slipcover. I should do it for this one too. This is by Time Tomorrow, but it's gorgeously shot, thematically rich, and kind of this love triangle between these three young characters who are going through a lot of things, and then this Japanese occupation that happens. And I just think it's a beautiful film and great performances, and it's really just about the strength of friendship as well. I think, even though it is a love triangle, there's a lot of love between them that is not romantic, and I found that really touching, and I loved following their journey. And it gets very dramatic and it gets gritty, and it's a fucking brilliant film. I loved it. And we're kind of going through a lot of different styles of kind of Hong Kong film, from like a more modern quote unquote action film with The Adventurers, and some of the Shaw Brothers stuff from Chang Cheh, and then different styles of martial arts. And this is another different style of martial arts. This was directed by Ta Huang from 1974, starring James Tien as the lead hero here in Shaolin boxers. And this is what they call a basher film, where the martial arts style is just like fist on muscle. They're just bashing each other basically. There's not a whole lot of martial arts finesse going on. It's pure just power and kicks and punches, and it's kind of a tournament film, kind of not. And there's the revenge element that always kind of crops up in these films. I thought this was really good. I enjoyed it a lot. Darren Wheeling did the artwork on this one. And it's an hour and 18 minutes. It doesn't outstay its welcome. I liked James Tien, but I do think, having seen him in quite a few things now, that even though James Tien has the kind of baby face that you really associate with like a virtuous hero character, I do think, oddly, he's more suited to villainous characters, which ended up being what would dictate the future of his career, I think, beyond that kind of early 70s period where he was almost being groomed to be that kind of figure in Hong Kong cinema. But I really enjoyed this. The villain in it is a real piece of shit. There's a common theme, and there's this flashback sequence which is it shows you kind of what he did, and it's, you want that guy to pay. And boy does he pay. There's a long fight scene at the end, and I really enjoyed it. And I liked how it kind of went to different locations. It was a long, drawn out, knock down, drag him out brawl. I really enjoyed it. Shaolin Boxers, not great, but I really enjoyed it. And I literally just threw these together in a stack. There's no order to them whatsoever. This is, first of all, the most recent one that I've seen, and next to Hong Kong 1941, the one that I'm, this is my second most enthusiastic title in this video. That didn't make sense as a sentence, but yeah, it's number 2 for me of these films I've been talking about. This one is from 1968, directed by Yu Feng, The Bells of Death. Now, full disclosure, when this was announced, nothing about it really grabbed me. Now it's Hong Kong cinema, I'm in the bag for it no matter what. But it wasn't one I was like, oh god, yeah, like it just, okay, revenge film. I don't know any of the people in it, which is kind of a funny thing now where I'm just like, oh, I don't recognize anyone in this. Like I should recognize them, but I just find that I've started to recognize people and, you know, directors and names in the credits and things. And this one, it was just like, I got no clue. I spotted a very young Sammo Hung in the film. I spotted a very young Wu Ma, so that was kind of fun. But otherwise, I didn't know any of the leads or, you know, there's a couple of other faces I recognize actually, but not by name. And the director, Yu Feng, I'd never heard of before. But apparently he'd been working since like the 30s. So this was kind of more near the end of his career, even though it's in the 1960s. The Bells of Death. Knocked me out. What a film. What a fucking film. You can't tell me Tarantino hasn't seen this. And the thing about this film, I'm gonna do a full review of this one because I'm so enthusiastic about it. But it is a film. I mean, you look at the kind of this circle here. This circle to me, almost in my own mind, represents kind of the kind of the loop of referential kind of stuff going on with this film, as far as the films that this is referencing and drawing from, and the films that have drawn from this afterwards. Because this is a revenge film done in a style that feels like Kill Bill. This is a revenge film that feels like a Japanese chambara film rather than a wuxia film, but it is a wuxia film as well. And then it's more violent than what you would expect from this time period with Shaw Brothers. And it has a Western flair to it too. It has a spaghetti Western flair to it. And yet it has a Kurosawa influence, and Kurosawa was influenced by American Western. So it's kind of the referential kind of key points are kind of, you know, like a snake eating its own tail. You know, it's just, there's so much going on in terms of like, well, this is like the opening scene of Inglourious Basterds, or this is like the story of Kill Bill. This is like that American Western from 1960, whatever it was, and then this is like, you know, like Rashomon, and this is like that. But to me, having seen a lot of that kind of material myself, this still feels very much like its own thing. And the opening is brutal, and it is again a revenge film. This man's whole family gets killed by these 3 incredibly memorable villains, these bastards. Like, God, you want to see him get their comeuppance so badly. And it's like an hour and 28 minutes, and you basically get half-hour chunks of him going and finding each of these 3 bastards, and it's not quite what you'd think either. And each encounter is so memorable, and you have a romance that's tied into it that isn't overplayed, isn't overdone, and you've got a great actress playing this kind of love interest, and also someone who's kind of carried along with similar trauma to our main character. And she's played by, her name is not on the back of the Blu-ray. I'm going to have to go to the booklet because I need to reference her and name check her. Oh, I like that. That's cool. I almost don't want to show the cover because it kind of spoils a climactic moment from the movie. This is a great shot though, man. I got to show you this. This is from one of the duels from the film. And it looks a lot darker in the movie. This is probably production still. But God, I just love the theatricality of fight sequences. And this is a film where less is more in so many different ways. And it's brilliantly made. It really is so well put together. The actress is Chin Ping, who plays Chang Cheh. It's the woman who he comes across, our lead hero. And interestingly enough, his journey to being, you know, this avenging warrior, it's kind of just completely skirted over. I love that about the film because, you know, his whole family gets killed and he vows revenge. And the Bells of Death is this bracelet that his mother was wearing when she was killed. And he carries it around his neck. So that jangling of those bells is constant throughout the whole film and is used as kind of a device of tension and a symbolic kind of use of the sound as well as kind of this impending doom for the people who he's going to enact this revenge upon. I love all that stuff, and the sound design and everything is so instrumental to the film, literally. And what I just thought was so good and so kind of unique about it is that a lot of these films that I see from Shaw Brothers, from Hong Kong in the 60s and 70s, is that the fight scenes, they go on and on and on and on and on. It's all very impressive, but it becomes a bit dense at times. Sometimes, not all the time. And I kind of expected that of this, I suppose. And you aren't going to get the kind of gorgeous choreography that you get with certain other films, you know, or the inventiveness that I tend to kind of, I put that onto Hong Kong films. For me, is the inventiveness, the creativity of the fight sequences. There's not a whole lot of that in this, but it's done sparingly, and it's done with moments to breathe and theatricality. And I love that stuff. And there's just great uses of different techniques visually, I don't know, just orally as well with the sound. It's a complete film in that sense. I love that about it. And as I was saying, that the kind of the journey for this hero is to go down a dark path of blood and revenge and guts and all that kind of stuff. But his whole family gets killed, and he stumbles across this master swordsman, on the road. And after a long kind of journey, in a sense, to kind of get this master to teach him, or at least to even hear his plea, he's there and he's sat down with this wise bearded master, and it's like, I know what's coming. It's the old trope. Okay, teach me what you know, because I want to be a warrior. And then the old man says, well, why do you want to learn martial arts? What's the reason? What's the virtue behind this? And then he says it's for revenge. And then he says, well, I can't teach you. And, and then you have to spend half the movie convincing him. And then finally the training, and the training takes up half an hour. He literally says to him, why do you want to be taught martial arts? And he says, I'm not sure if he says revenge or we see a flashback to the events. And then it just cuts to 5 years later, and he's like an absolute demon with a sword. So it just circumnavigates all of that, and you don't get the judgment from the old master, and he is now this killing machine. And that was, for pacing reasons, wonderful. I do like a good training montage, but I just think that it throws you through this story. You barrel through this story. It's relentless, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Bells of Death. That's a new favorite for me for Hong Kong films. I'll leave it for there. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. And let me know what you've been checking out from Eureka, from the Hong Kong releases, other companies as well. I'd like to hear what you're kind of digging into and enjoying. And I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.